Hey everyone, and welcome to He's Not Wrong. I'm your host, Chad D, and today we have Aaron Parnas as our guest. You likely have seen his videos on TikTok and Instagram, or you may even follow his Substack. Aaron is widely recognized as an independent journalist who uses every platform available to share news, verified information, and clear analysis of current events. We are so very fortunate to have him with us today to talk about his rapid growth in the independent media space, how he built his audience, and why his work resonates with so many people. But I want to make a quick note before we get into the conversation. Early in the episode, I mentioned to Aaron that I've always known him as Aaron Parnas, not as the son of Lev Parnas. You may be confused in that moment because I didn't set that part of the discussion up clearly, and I want to acknowledge that up front. So please listen to this episode all the way through and get to know Aaron based on his work and his perspective. If you're curious later about what we are referencing, you can look up Lev Parnas for context and then explore his work with what he is doing now to push back against the Trump administration and to ensure the public has accurate information about what's going on. So with that, I give you my conversation with Aaron Parnas. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on He's Not Wrong today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
There's been better mornings, I'll tell you that much. The weather is insane in Alabama right now. And so I know we just talked about it a little bit, but I appreciate you being flexible with how crazy the environment is right now, literally.
Well, literally the news is as crazy as the weather, so I get it.
So I first off want to start by asking, are you okay? Though you carry the weight of the country on your shoulders right now. And so this question is really just making sure that you're getting a couple of hours of sleep a night.
No, I'm not okay. But I think if I would say I'm okay, I'd be lying to everyone. No, it's funny. People ask me like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah, I'm sleeping. I get 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep a night. But is it restful? No. Am I getting breaks? No. But here's the thing. I love what I do, and so there'll come a time in 3 years and 2 months where I'll get a break.
So I'm not kidding when I say that you have genuinely become a staple in so many people's lives. Like for me personally, my boyfriend watches all of your videos. I wake up to your voice. I fall asleep to your voice.
My wife does too.
So I feel like I know you on a very intimate level, even though this is like our first time meeting. But in the mornings, the first question that I get asked is, did you see what Aaron posted? And our culture used to be wake up, have coffee, read the newspaper. And now it's wake up, immediately check to see what videos Aaron Parnas has posted. And so I just want to ask, how have the past few years been for you with your name and voice becoming so prominent as it is?
It's been wild, but it's been such a blessing. I mean, I never in a million years ever wanted to do this work. I only started doing this work because I felt as though mainstream media wasn't doing a good enough job portraying what was happening in Ukraine. And I had family in Ukraine when Russia invaded. And then next thing you know, I'm now reaching tens of millions of people. I mean, like I said, it's really just a blessing. I think one of the biggest problems in American society is the fact that civics, media literacy, and ethics aren't taught in all schools across the country, in all classrooms. And so if I can just bridge that divide a little bit with my content, help some folks who won't watch the news or don't understand what's happening in our country understand it a little bit better, then I feel like I'm doing a service. So, it's been a wild ride, but I wouldn't take back any minute of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Has anyone come up to you recently and told you that you have bridged that gap for them? They understand what's going on, or they can use critical thinking and logic to be able to sort through the news based on what you've been able to provide for them?
Yeah, it happens actually all the time. I mean, I get messages like that every day. People come up to me in person regularly and say that. I think the ones that I love the most are the ones that come up to me and say, "Hey, I don't watch the news. I've never watched the news. I've never even voted in my life, but I watch you and I'm learning." And I hear that and I'm like, great, like amazing, good. Like you're educating yourself and I'm helping do that. So it's been great.
Have you been able to get used to that?
Yeah, I have. But I mean, I will say there are times where people come up to me at like the weirdest spots, like in the sauna at the gym. And I'm just like, maybe like right now is not the best time, but I love you guys. Thanks.
To keep it on the theme of how prominent you've become in this space, you moderated one of the book stop tours for Kamala Harris. And I had the opportunity to attend and to meet her at her stop in Birmingham. And I still have no words to express how amazing of an opportunity that was. How was that for you? I need all the details on how that came to be, what it was like, what you were feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. For me, the moment I found out she had a book, I like started texting and like barraging her team and was like, "Hey, I don't know if this is a crazy idea, but like, let me moderate a stop. Pick a stop, any stop. I'll fly wherever on my own dime. I just want to do this because I think we need to platform new media and like not just have the same journalists
Yeah.
interviewing politicians on their book tours." And they're like, "Okay, okay, this is not a crazy idea. We'll see what happens." And then I get an email randomly saying like, "Hey, it's the first stop. Do you want it?" And I just jumped at it, of course. It was an awesome experience. I tell everyone, I was actually talking about it last night on TikTok Live. I've met 5 presidents and 3 vice presidents in my short life, and there's been no one who has been more genuine than Vice President Harris. Truly, like I mean, behind the scenes, she was one of the most genuine politicians I had ever met, and it was honestly an amazing experience.
I back that up for sure. When I was speaking with her at her stop, her team was rushing me out. Um, but she continued to talk to me, and I was like blacked out. I didn't know what was going on. But as I was walking out, her team was recording it, and you see me leave, and for like a solid minute, she's yelling, talking to me. I had no idea. So I tell people that I ignored the vice president. But I like what you said about her being genuine, because one thing that a lot of people don't realize about her is just how far back her work goes and how meaningful the things that she advocates for is to her personally. I had a friend from high school, and his moms are the ones who overturned Prop 8 in the Supreme Court, and
Wow.
Kamala was the one who married them in California
Oh
after.
wow.
I'm just like, if you go back far enough, you can just you see just how genuine she is and how much she cares about the things that she is platforming.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people say so many things about her, but if you really look at her career, I mean, she truly has been in public service her entire life. Like, this wasn't someone like, sure, she may have aspired to be president one day when she became an assistant district attorney in San Francisco, but no one actually thinks truly that they're going to be president when they're starting
Yeah.
out their legal career. Like, she went into this trying to fight the good fight, and she did a lot of good things as attorney general, as district attorney, helped a lot of people and saved a lot of lives, honestly, when she was a
Yeah.
prosecutor with some of the work that she did. So yeah, I mean, I think people need to read up on their politicians a little more.
One of my favorite photos of her, it was from the 2008 campaign, and she was in the field office with Barack Obama. I think it was like around midnight or something, and you see her looking exhausted, putting paperwork on a desk. Like, she's been involved in the grassroots efforts for people since the very start. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wish more people knew that. So listen, I get into it with my friends all the time because they tell me every video that you post is breaking news. I'm like, no, you guys, sometimes it's news just in, and I have to correct them on that. And so I want to know how you differentiate between what's just news and what's breaking news
It's
when you're on
actually
social media.
It's funny. I think only about like 10 or 15% of my videos actually have the word breaking in them. That's such like a common misconception when people just like have seen 2 videos of mine and they're like, "Oh my God, all he does is breaking news." I don't do that often, much at all, because not everything is breaking. A lot isn't breaking. But to me,
Hmm.
what's breaking is when it's timely, right? Like if news came out in the past 15 minutes, that is breaking news. It doesn't have to be Trump dying. Like it doesn't have to be the biggest news in the world,
Yeah.
but it just has to be newsy and timely. So like if we have a deal on Ukraine and Russia tomorrow, like that is breaking news. Um, People are just so accustomed when they hear breaking news to like the CNN cryon, which is like breaking 24/7. It just has the word breaking, even when it's not actually breaking. And I don't, I mean, look, you could literally go through my videos. Only about 10-15% actually have the word breaking in them.
I'm with you on that. I correct people at every opportunity that I have. I'm like, no, not every video is breaking news. It's
No.
sometimes it's just news. Um, and that's something I think people have gotten way too used to, and it's something with legacy media that I'm pretty frustrated with, is the fact that like after every commercial break, it's always breaking news to the point where just anyone they can't differentiate between what's just news, what they should be paying attention to what actually is breaking, because when everything is breaking, it's like it's watered down. It lost its meaning.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people are just tuning out mainstream media right now.
Yeah. Talking about mainstream media, one thing that you've talked about in interviews before is how the mainstream legacy media is beholden to Trump and to billionaires. And it shows why we need independent journalism now more than ever. And you obviously fill a very important uh, spot in that space right now, even with clear evidence showing that people are turning to independent news sources like yours in huge numbers. What is it that legacy media is missing and don't understand about what people need and what they want?
Authenticity. I mean,
Mm,
when are you going to see Jake Tapper report the news in a face mask and a robe in his bed? You're never going to see that. Everything has to be so perfect and so orchestrated. You have to have the script, and it has to look good, and it has to sound good, and I mean, I'm a big believer that perfect is the enemy of good. The way I'm looking right now is the way I look 90% of the time. I don't like wearing suits. I don't like being super professional. I have a mic because I'm forced to have a mic. Otherwise, my audio would suck. And that's it. I mean, like, it's really just like me and a camera 98% of the time. I didn't have someone editing YouTube videos until like 2 months ago. It just, I'm a mainstream media is trying to be perfect when in
mhm.
reality most Americans don't actually want perfect because they themselves are not perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like they want to see a reflection of themselves being represented in the information that they're getting. And whenever I see a video where you are wearing a suit, it's always so jarring because it's like, wait,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
No, literally, I don't wear suits. And people get mad. My wife gets mad. She's like, how'd you go and interview this politician and not wear a suit? And I'm like, because at the end of the day, these politicians have constituents. 98% of them don't wear suits when they meet them, and neither will I.
Do you source any of your information from legacy media outlets? And if you do, how do you deconstruct it in a way that takes out that Trump billionaire
Yeah.
framing and turns people off in the first place?
Of course. I mean, I would say about 40% of my videos, 30 to 40% are sourced from mainstream outlets, just like other outlets sourced from other outlets. I mean, most of the news you see on television or in print is not reported by the outlet that's talking to you. It's actually the way media works nowadays is you have these wire services. The AP and Reuters are the primary wire services, and places like CNN and Fox and MSNBC, all of these CBS, they pull from the wire service and then they report it on their websites or on television. And so that's about 30 to 40% of my work too. I think for me, where I distinguish mainstream media, I don't have a disdain for mainstream media. I actually want television media to thrive. I want print media to thrive. I think the journalists in these organizations do great work and should be platformed, and I would love to work with them, and I do work with some of them. And so I think like that's how I separate it. Like I'm not if I attack media, because I'm attacking things like Jeff Bezos controlling the Washington Post.
Yeah.
I'm not attacking Dylan Wells, who's a Washington Post reporter and does great political reporting. I think she does great work, but I'm attacking the structure that's enabled some of the worst things we've seen in media to happen.
Yeah, I had a TikToker. His name's Cokehead on TikTok on earlier in the year, and he does he's more political analysis type stuff. And so I was asking him his thoughts on how media outlets skew,
Yeah.
um, lean left versus right, and so he was talking about this one bias chart that is produced every year that shows where media outlets, I can't remember the name of it, but it shows where media outlets lie politically. And he bases where he gets his sources on that chart. And I'm like, that was not even 6, 7 months ago we had that conversation. And I feel like that chart
Yeah.
is like completely different now, just with everything that happened with CBS and ABC and all the lawsuits that are happening and showing where these organizations are capitulating to the Trump administration.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know that chart well. I actually have my issues with that chart because I think like I don't just discount news just because it comes from Fox News, for
Mm,
example, right?
yeah.
Because Fox does have investigative journalists who produce factual information. Yes, they skew it a certain way,
Mhm.
and that's inappropriate, but not all of their information is completely just should be discounted. Oftentimes they have a closer ear to the White House than someone at MSNBC just because of the political affiliation. And same thing on the left. Like, I'm not, just because the Daily Beast reported it, which is a very far left organization, doesn't mean I'm going to say, oh my God, no, I'm not going to touch it. No, they have some fact in what they're saying, even though sometimes what the way they portray it is kind of primarily opinion. So that's why the bias chart doesn't really speak to me, because everyone has bias. Every media company, every journalist has bias. It's how the story is framed, not the facts that are being presented. Because like, it also, like, for example, I think the bias chart has Axios on the left. Axios is not a left-wing newspaper. If anyone's read Axios, it's further to the right. It has the New York Times as a left-leaning newspaper. I don't think the Times is left-leaning. I think the Times is generally to the center. And then it has it's just, the Wall Street Journal opinion is put on there. The Wall Street Journal opinion is not a news source; it's an opinion column. So like, I have some issues with the chart, but.
And I added this morning. I was to my layout for the episode. I was debating whether or not to bring it up, because before I went to bed last night, I was just looking at the news, watching some of your videos, and you posted a video last night retelling your story that you talked about before about the hardest day in your life. And I don't want to talk about the specifics behind it, but I just felt like it was important on this episode to tell you that I have only ever known you as Aaron Parnas. I did not know any of that until last night. I remember hearing some stories about your father in the news, but like, I never put two and two together. I never let that color how I saw you and the work that you're doing. And I know that to be the case for so many people, that like, none of us are defined by the sins of our parents. And I think it's important to acknowledge that all of us grow, and we're not defined by any circumstances or successes or failures by anyone else other than our own. Sure. Like, if that was the case, I would be ostracized on social media because I grew up in a Republican military Catholic household. And I'm like, isn't growth what we want? Like, don't we want to see people like learning in this day and age? Like, when was that a bad thing?
I agree. I mean, I just think people attacking me for my dad are just looking for ways to attack me. So it is what it is.
I think it's ridiculous. And I want to say on the topic of fairness for like just a moment, because some influencers that I've noticed attack your approach to how you tell the news, saying that you're too centrist on certain issues, or that you perpetuate like the sanitization of news that legacy media is accused of. And I want to be clear, like, I don't agree with any of those influencers or those critiques.
You can agree. I don't care.
I don't, though. I truly don't, because what you do is like, you're allowing people to learn, know the facts, but to continue to do their own research. It's like, you're not the end all be all, but here's information. If you want to know more, go find out more on your own. But what would you say to the people who want you to fully adopt a certain political movement or a political ideology and infuse that perspective into your reporting?
That's not journalism. If a journalist infuses a political ideology into their reporting, that skews their reporting. I take it as like a compliment that like people on the left and people on the right are mad at me. That means I'm doing something right, because ultimately my job and what I want to do is just to give you the facts, and then allow you to do your own research, allow you to formulate your own opinions. I don't want to skew your opinion one way or the other. And yeah, I mean, there are some independent organizations that do great work, and they have their biases, and they are very open about that. But that's not what I do. And so, like, let me do what I do, and like, you go and find your news elsewhere if you don't like it. Like, I mean, that is what it is. I mean, honestly, a lot of the critiques are baked in jealousy. I've noticed from some influencers, and I reach out to them often, and I'm like, privately, like, hey, what the hell? Like, I saw you the other day at like this conference, and like, we were fine, and now you're taking a video attacking me online. And almost always they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, then take the video down or go like apologize. It's funny. Not a single, like when I'm getting attacked online, no one comes for my defense. They're like afraid to, but like, people know that when they attack me online, the videos will go viral, because when you say my name on TikTok, TikTok loves to make it go viral. And so they just continue doing it. It is what it is.
I'm a a classic case of keyboard warriors, just not behind a keyboard, but behind a phone.
Yeah,
And I mean, I feel like you could cater to their critiques, and those same people would remain unhappy and find something else to complain about. So, I mean,
correct.
yeah. I want to pivot to some current events that are happening right now. And I feel like you are in a very unique position to talk about them and address them, from
Sure.
living in DC to all the sources and information that you have at your fingertips. But the stability that we're watching unfold right now at the federal level is staggering. And we've seen from the infighting within the administration to legal battles that have erupted inside of the White House
Yeah.
that I mean it's just chaos. And I'm curious how you view the broader chaos that we've seen recently, and what you think people what do you think people misunderstand about how extreme and unusual this level of dysfunction actually is?
So I'm going to push back on the premise of that a little bit, because I think that this dysfunction and chaos is really centralized in a bubble. When you go
Sure.
to average everyday Americans, they're not feeling the chaos and dysfunction that you and I understand, because we're so hyper involved and so in the know. What they care about is, can they afford groceries? How much is their gas? Are their mortgage rates going up? That's what they care about.
Yeah.
And right now, the dysfunction they're feeling is the fact that prices aren't going down and rates are being finicky right now. And that's what they're in. They don't care whether or not Democrats or Republicans control the House, or whether or not a certain part of the budget bill has been introduced. That's not what they care about. And so oftentimes when we talk about the dysfunction, we forget that an average everyday American is not really caring about what's happening in DC. And oftentimes, and I tell everyone this as part of my civics education, is that what happens in DC doesn't actually impact most Americans.
Hmm.
The government that impacts your day-to-day life is local government, right?
Yeah.
Your mayor, your council members impact your life more than your congressman, and oftentimes more than the president does, because they are just so in the know and handle day-to-day issues. And so, yes, the chaos and what we're experiencing in DC is definitely not normal. It's far from what we've ever seen in the past. But I don't know how much of that is actually getting to everyday Americans.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads into what I wanted to talk about next, and just discuss how difficult is it to cover things like the East Wing and everything behind that, and that being so at the forefront of what's being
Yeah.
discussed online and in the news, when things like healthcare prices are going up for people. I think I saw one independent journalist in New York was talking about how his healthcare went up about $600 extra for
Yeah.
this upcoming year. And those are the things that impact Americans. But yet what we're getting in the news and what we're hearing most about is the East Wing. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to
Yes.
me.
I mean, listen, I think the East Wing is actually did break through a little bit at if you looked at polling, it did reach average people, because they're like, what the hell is our government doing? Because it happened
Yeah.
during the government shutdown. But yes, I completely agree with you. I think that right now, the biggest issues in Washington that are impacting Americans are not being discussed enough in the media. Like, the top issue right now in the media today is what's happening in Ukraine, this peace deal.
Hmm.
And yes, that is a very big deal, but it's not a very big deal to a majority of Americans. And I say that as someone who has family in Ukraine, who's relying on hopefully some type of peace deal happening.
Yeah.
We need to be talking about how in less than 2 months, ACA credits are going to expire. And like you said, healthcare prices are going to skyrocket. We need to talk about how at the end of the year, every single SNAP recipient is going to have to recertify their SNAP eligibility, which will cause a major backlog. And ultimately, a lot of families will not receive SNAP payments in the start of the new year. Those things the media isn't really talking about, but those are the ones that impact Americans the most.
I want to back up just a little bit, because you talked about how at the federal level, Congress, like we don't feel most of those things, at least immediately, and
Yeah.
and what's all going on. And I'm glad you brought that up, because in the episode before this one, I just had Hope Walls on over the weekend, and she was talking about how it's so important to get involved locally, and how those are the policies and those are the issues that you will feel immediately when those decisions are made at the local and state level. And so I'm glad you bring
Yeah.
that up just to really drive home the point that there's an urgent need for people to find community, to get involved locally, to run for a local office, and to really start focusing on those issues if they aren't already.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, when I left law school and moved to Miami, the first thing I did was join my local party club and then local nonprofit organization, and just started canvassing and door knocking and work and just meeting people. I encourage everyone to do the same thing.
Yeah, I hope if anything comes out of what's going on nowadays, it's that there's a more localized focus on politics and a move away from just focusing on everything federal, kind of
I
balance it out a
agree.
little bit.
Completely agree.
So I know you read and listen to a huge range of stories and journalists and outlets.
Yeah,
As we discussed, I'm assuming you have sources on the Hill.
I do.
Can you speak to what you've heard about Marjorie's resignation? And did you see that coming when the news broke at the end
No,
of
I
last
didn't.
week?
Okay, yes and no. I saw it coming. I didn't think she was going to run for reelection. I didn't
Mm,
see her resigning early. That's the part that kind of was a bombshell to me, because that means that there is a lot of internal like conflict within the Republican caucus. And from what I understand, you could have more resignations coming soon. I always thought that Marjorie Taylor Greene, I didn't think she had much longer left in Congress after breaking from Trump, because once you break from the leader, you're on an island on your own. And so would not have been surprised if she just said, I'm going to leave Congress at the end of my term, finish serving it out. But she said, you know what, screw you, Mike Johnson, screw you, Trump, and I'm leaving on January 6th. Maybe that's a symbolic move. And I think it's a sign of, it's an omen, a bad omen for Republicans who I think they know they're going to lose the House in 2026. It's just a matter of how early really it happens.
Do you? I know there's a lot of talk that it could be a sign that more Republicans are going to resign um, before the term is up. Do you actually believe that? Have you been hearing things to actually back that up? That yes, we are going to see those resignations at some point.
Yes, without a doubt. It's a matter of how many and who.
Yeah.
But I said this earlier this morning, actually, on another interview, that I think a lot of people forget how much, like, Republicans and Democrats, members of Congress, hate serving in the minority. Serving in the minority in the House of Representatives is truly one of the worst jobs you can have in Washington, because you can't get anything done. You're getting screamed at all day. You're literally having to just like sit there and watch the other party run roughshod on whatever
Yeah.
it wants to do. And a lot of these Republicans that are considering resigning are older, in their 60s and their 70s. Many of them have been in government for 20, 30 years, sometimes even longer. Don't get me started on term limits. And they want to go and make money. Now, to them, like to the average American, $174,000 a year for 20 years, that's a lot of money, and I agree. But when you serve as a member of Congress, you can leave your job after 20 years and go lobby and make $1.7 million a year for some
Hmm.
folks. And so they want to go make some money. And I would expect some of the older folks, before they get too old, to leave the house, let some new blood in, and then go make some money on the side.
It's so impossible right now. Even with what you said, it's hard to tell who it will be by how many, but you know that they will happen.
Yeah.
I think it goes to show how impossible this environment is to predict. And right now, for instance, like we have Tommy Tuberville, and I want to apologize to America for Alabama giving him to all of you, but Tommy Tuberville is running for governor of Alabama. He's not liking his time in the Senate. It's a little too hard for him. And yesterday, we had former Senator Doug Jones, who announced that he's running
Saw
for
that.
governor of Alabama. Yeah, really excited about that one. Usually, I'd be like, yeah, like I mean, Doug has the best chance, but I mean, it's so hard to win in Alabama as a Democrat. But like right now, with how impossible it is to predict where things are going to go, I'm like, maybe this is a special opportunity for Doug. And I've had a lot of Republicans, because in the content I've made about Doug, I've had a lot of Republicans reach out and say, I've like, screw Tommy, like very disappointed at him, gonna donate to Doug. And I'm like, this is going to be an interesting year of campaigning because I genuinely don't know how it's going to go. Do you think that's unique to Alabama, or do you think that we're going to start seeing that same kind of vibe across the country?
I think we're going to see that across the country. I don't think Doug would have jumped in if he didn't think he had an iota of a chance. Remember,
Yeah.
everyone said he didn't have a chance against Roy Moore too,
Yeah.
and then he won. Do I think Doug Jones will win? I don't think so. But do I think that if he can make it a 5-10 point race, that's a win? Yes, in a lot of respects, because that'll translate down ballot as well for Democrats in Alabama. I think you'll see that across the country. I think you'll see more of these Democrats who are willing to jump into tougher races. And I really think, I don't know when this episode's coming out, but
Yeah.
what'll be a tell for me is how Democrats perform in the special election in Tennessee
Yeah.
next week. If I forget her name,
Afton Bain.
Afton Bang.
Yeah.
If she wins, or if she, I don't think she needs to win, but if she comes, it's a Trump plus 22 district. If she comes within 10 points of winning, major bad omen for Republicans.
Yeah, we've been following that one and helping out some, and there's different organizations that we've helped make videos for with like Engage Y'all, who's that's Gabe Alamont. She ran in the special election down in Florida when that opening came up. She turned her loss into a political PAC. She was the first one, and their PAC was the first one to identify Afton's race as, you know what, we need to get involved in this. And then like the Seneca Project's getting involved, and that's going to be an interesting one. All their internal polling is looking to be positive, but as you said, if you look at it by points, she doesn't stand a chance. But in this environment, it's like, wait, even if she can lose by single digits, that's a win in my book, at least for that area in Tennessee.
She does not need to win for Democrats to win, truly. And I think it's already a win, in my opinion, because no other special election in a Trump plus 22 district should draw this much money from Republican super PACs. There is so much money going into that district. They're genuinely a little worried, and that's already a win.
I want to ask about all the chatter online that's happening right now about the possibility that in the coming weeks, Democrats will take back control of the House. And I appreciate your level setting and your honesty about issues and topics. And I want your opinion on that, because I think the thing that a lot of people are missing personally is the fact that, like, yes, Trump is very unpopular. The Republican Party is unpopular, but the Democratic Party is still fairly unpopular. It's just where we have a good positioning to win in the midterms. And do you think that even if we do get control of the House, that anything meaningful can be accomplished as quickly as people are expecting and talking about?
No, absolutely not. If you think Democrats will get anything done if they just control the House, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it would be an unfair criticism of whoever is speaker, whether it's Hakeem Jeffries or anyone else, to criticize them that Democrats in the House don't get anything done when you have a Republican Senate and a Republican president. That's not the goal. I think a lot of people are forgetting that the goal is, if Democrats take the House, which is all they need really, then they slash Donald Trump's term in half.
Yep.
He's already a lame duck president. He's not going to run again, no matter how much he wants to. He's not going to do it. If Democrats win just the House or just the Senate or both, nothing gets done for Republicans. And so they essentially stall the entire Trump agenda, because he can't legislate through executive orders. If you read his executive orders, they're a lot of fluff, a lot of talk, not really much action. He's only passed one piece of legislation through Congress, like a marquee piece, and that is the big, beautiful bill. He won't be able to do anything else. He really won't be. And also, Democrats will have a ton of leverage come budget negotiations and more if they have a Speaker Jeffries, because Trump will have to meet with Jeffries. And he can't just only meet with Johnson and Thune.
I appreciate that, because one thing that I'm only seeing people talk about is, if Democrats get back control, like, they need to impeach. I'm like, y'all are missing the point. Like, even if they were to impeach him, that would be detrimental to us. The Senate's not going to convict him. At least I don't think they would, especially right now. And I'm like, there's so many other things that we should be focusing on and encouraging them to be strong in the face of a battle, like when it comes to the budget talks or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like that's an opportunity for us to win. And y'all want to talk about impeachment. Like, let's be
Also,
real here.
for the record, most Democrats don't support impeachment in the House right now. I mean, if you had an impeachment vote on the floor right
Yeah.
now, you may have 100 members, 120, 130 members. You won't get 218.
Yesterday, major news broke with a federal judge dismissing the indictments against Letitia James and James Comey, saying that Lindsay Halligan's appointment was unlawful, and you're an attorney. And
I am.
I'm curious your read on that whole situation with concerning Lindsay Halligan.
When you put someone who's I've been in a criminal courtroom more times than Lindsay Halligan has, and Lindsay
Yeah.
Halligan was practicing law a lot longer than I ever did. Um, I think that when you try to rush things in a criminal system that is meant to be the complete opposite. I mean, our justice system moves hella slow.
Yeah.
When you try to rush it and try to fit this square peg through a round hole, this is the result you get. I think if Trump wanted to indict Letitia James and James Comey, could have done that. The way he does that is pretty simple. He appoints Lindsay Halligan as the U.S. attorney before all the chaos happens, gets her confirmed through this Senate, who would probably confirm her before all of this, and then have her indict.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have probably taken a year, but it would have been done the proper way, and the indictments would have been upheld on this ground. Now, there are other reasons why I think the indictments would be thrown out, but on this ground, it would happen. But the Trump administration likes to rush things. And in Comey's case, they had to rush it because the statute of limitations ran out 2 days after the indictment was sought. So, I mean, they had a lot of options.
Yeah.
I just think that they went with the worst possible option.
So I know the judge left the door open to the possibility that new charges could be brought up against them.
Yeah.
And there's a whole issue with statute of limitations, all of that. But do you think the story with them is over, or is there more to come on this?
Well, I think this order will be appealed, and I think it'll probably make its way up to the Supreme Court. It's a very important issue, actually, because it's not just Lindsay Halligan. There is a whole appointments clause issue just with U.S. attorneys across the board in the Trump administration. So this is a case the Supreme Court's going to take, I would predict, and I don't know where it'll fall, actually. But whether or not Trump is conducting lawful appointments in certain respects is a real issue that the Supreme Court, I think, should consider. So do I think this is the end? No. Do I think it's the end for a while? Yes. And that to me already means it's the end, because I think Democrats will win the presidency in 2028 if all trends go this way, because I don't think you have a popular president by the end of this term. And I don't think any Justice Department under a Democrat will continue these prosecutions. So really the goal in a lot of respects is delay, which I think will happen here.
One reason why I'm glad to have you on at this moment is because there is obviously a very blatant and coordinated effort right now to silence media and journalists who go against what the administration is saying. And there's way too many examples for us to cover in the time that we have. But the pattern seems to be threaten media companies, sue them, settle for huge sums of money, and then route that money to a presidential fund, library fund, and who knows where the money's going after that. But recently we saw multiple news organizations band together and refuse to sign the new press policy at the Pentagon. Now, that's given us Laura Loomer being treated as a credentialed journalist covering news coming out of the Pentagon, and I cannot stress enough how dangerous that is. But I'm wondering from your positioning how bad this is for journalism and public safety and for transparency.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. We don't have a Pentagon press corps. And as a result, we don't have someone who's trying to figure out whether or not Mark Kelly is going to be tried for sedition.
Yeah.
It really is bad. And I would say this if it was a Democratic president. It's bad across the board. We need freedom of the press, complete freedom of the press. And so, it's a very scary time to be a journalist. It really is.
Yeah. And you said before that there are certain international events that you won't really cover or report on a lot because you might not have a source in the region or other media outlets can't seem to coalesce behind what the facts are regarding situations that are going on. With the Pentagon doing what they're doing, what kinds of stories do you think won't get told when experienced reporters are getting pushed out?
Yeah, so I think it's less international focused. I think it's more what's actually happening in the Pentagon. I think we won't actually know the truth around like ultimately whether we go to war in Venezuela, like what that looks like from an internal perspective.
Yeah.
We won't know whether there are like objections from senior Pentagon leaders over strikes in the Caribbean. Like those are the stories that I think will start to die. The real internal stuff within the Pentagon. The international stories, the Pentagon never. I mean, the Pentagon reporters don't really touch. It's more international reporters that touch that stuff. So I think that the inner workings of the Pentagon we won't know as much about.
Do you think this was all coordinated? And this might be too conspiracy for you, but do you think it was all coordinated? Like we're gonna give them this impossible to sign contract, pretty much. They're not going to sign it, so we can get away with whatever we want in the Caribbean and Venezuela.
Oh no, I don't. I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with like them going to war in Venezuela. But it's anyone's. I mean, who knows? I don't know.
On that note, I want to ask because like this moment, it requires a lot for people to understand the threats that we're seeing. How do Democrats and Gen Z and progressives stay alert and effective in combating this rise of authoritarianism, this attack on media that we are seeing right now?
Good question. If I had the answer, I'd be running for office. I tell a lot of people sometimes the best opposition is no opposition.
Yeah.
Right? Like the people voted for this. They did. They voted for Trump. So let them have it. Let them see what they voted for and let them decide when they go to the ballot box whether or not they want to continue this trend. And we've seen so far that they don't want it, right? Just 3 weeks ago, they repudiated the Trump administration in Virginia, New Jersey, California, across the country, Republican, Democratic areas. I think that's going to continue. So right now, everyone wants an opposition. What the hell do you want Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries to do other than not fold during the government shutdown? Sure, but on a day-to-day basis, they can't do anything. They don't have the power to bring up a bill to the floor. They don't have the power to do much. So, I mean, this time, if you look back in 2021, at the end of 2021, what were Republicans doing in the House after losing the presidency and losing the House? They were arguing about whether Mr. Potato Head was a man or a woman. That was what they were arguing about. And everyone was like, well, this Republican Party is rudderless, has no direction. Sure. And then they won the House of Representatives. And then they won the presidency.
Yeah.
I think Democrats will be fine. I think just kind of sometimes just like stop the infighting and maybe just focus on fighting Trump.
Yeah. I agree. No notes on that one. I ask a lot of my guests this, and I'm particularly excited to ask you because you're in the trenches. You see a lot. You hear a lot. I want to know what gives you hope right now.
What gives me hope?
Yeah.
It is the protests, truly. Seeing people not just going out on the streets, but comfortable going out on the streets, meeting people, building community, organizing. That's giving me hope.
In the last No King's Day protest here in Birmingham, it was the day after Kamala was in Birmingham. She was here that Friday. Marches were that Saturday. And there was truly no way to tell how many people were going to be showing up that Saturday in a place like Alabama, of all places. Yeah. But my boyfriend and I made it a point, like no matter what, we are going. If the threats get bad, we don't care. We're going to go. If it seems like no one's going to show up, then we'll be the only two people. But like we have an obligation morally and ethically to show up and push back against what's happening. And when I tell you, Aaron, there was maybe 9,000 people here in Birmingham who showed up and rallied together and marched in the streets. It like multiple times on video. I was recording to make a little social media video. I started tearing up just at the fact that like, wow, like I have not felt this level of hope for our future since Kamala entered the race.
Yeah, when I was at the No King's Day protests, I met so many Republicans, independents, people who don't vote. They were like, I'm just here to make my voice heard. And that gave me hope.
It's time for the final question. I want to know what it is that you are not wrong about, Aaron.
I am not wrong about the fact that we will see the Epstein files.
Really?
Yeah, I really, I believe we will see the files. And I think we're going to see a lot of them. I think a lot of people are very nervous about redactions and withholdings, but I really, from everything I've understand and from everyone I've spoken to, I think we're going to get them.
Well, I lied. That's not my final question now because I want to know why. Like, if people are worried about the redactions, the withholdings, that they had the entire government shut down, and then now this next 30-day period to do whatever they want. If so many people are worried about that, why? Like, what can you point to that's telling you that like that should not be a concern right now?
Well,
We're going to see them.
multiple people have the files, right? It's not just the Justice Department. The Epstein estate has the files. Individuals have the files. And if the Justice Department says we don't want to release any of them, okay. Subpoenas will be issued to all of those banks and all of those individuals, and they can't just say no. They're going to go to court. JP Morgan Chase can't say no. So there are multiple copies of all these files because none of them actually originated in the Justice Department.
And you know what? That's what gives me hope, Aaron. Thank you so much for your time today. I know and I'm not shitting you when I say this, like you are the busiest person on social media. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and give us your insight and knowledge. And I really hope that maybe you can come back in the future if you're willing and ready. And I appreciate your time, Aaron.
Thanks for having me.
And I just want to thank Aaron again for his time today. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to having him back on the podcast soon. So please be sure to share this episode with your friends and family and give us some love in the review section on whatever platform you're listening to us on. If you want to tell us what you're not wrong about, please send me a message on Instagram at He's Not Wrong Podcast, or you can leave me a voice message at 205-538-3202. And I look forward to seeing you next weekend.